Welcome to Female Fluence. We are a place of women empowering women. This is a safe environment where females are not judged nor afraid to flourish. My goal is to help you live an energized life of balance, whether as a mom, a wife, or in your profession. It is time to have self-worth and self-compassion. Live in the present moment and surround yourself with only healthy connections. So join me, Promash Shur, a woman empowerment life coach, an educator, and a mother of three, to help take you on a journey of true identity and inspiration. Before we begin, I want to let you know that this episode includes discussion of abuse and may be a trigger for some listeners, so please take care while listening. The thought of anyone harming a child is almost unbearable, and yet every year, more than 500,000 of children in the United States endure some sort of abuse or neglect. These early experiences do not fade with time, but they can leave deep, lasting scars and contribute to lifelong physical and mental health struggles. Child maltreatment is not just a personal tragedy. It's actually a public health crisis that we cannot ignore. Neglect is the most common and arguably the most dangerous form of child abuse. These children often grow up without the emotional or physical support they need, and the impact can be devastating. Decades of research have shown that child abuse can cause lasting harm, not just emotionally, but also neurologically. It can rewire the brain, affecting how a child thinks, learns, and interacts with the world. It's also strongly linked to mental health challenges in adulthood, including anxiety, depression, PTSD, substance abuse, and eating disorders. When children are not taught what safe, loving relationships look like, they are unsure how to find or sustain them, and the effects ripple into every corner of their lives. Today's guest knows this reality firsthand. She survived a childhood filled with neglect and abuse, and she's here to share her story not just of survival, but of health, growth, and reclaiming her voice. Michelle Bishop has faced and conquered numerous challenges in life, making her a true survivor in every sense of this word. From a toxic upbringing and domestic violence to the heart-wrenching loss of her soulmate, battling COVID during the height of the pandemic, and enduring body image struggles, weight loss challenges, and breast cancer. Her troubled childhood led to destructive patterns in her behavior, which eventually took a toll on her career, relationships, and physical health. Today, she will share her unique life experiences, offering a powerful account of how she overcame her past to become the resilient woman she is today. Michelle, thank you so much for being on Female Fluence. I'm so honored to have you as my guest.
I am honored to be here, and what a absolutely wonderful introduction. I mean, I can't even imagine it being so eloquently displayed for so many of your listeners because it you can hear from your heart your authenticity for everyone that's out there listening, and it aligns in so much of my mission and my calling for exactly why I've chosen to write the book and be raw, and because we all have challenges. It's how we address those, and sometimes people do it quicker in other time frames than others, and it took me a long time to get my voice. And if I can be part of going ahead and shining the light of hope for others to know that everyone has a voice, everyone has a choice, and the light of through love is there. And it just warmed me hearing that from you. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much. I mean, I have a huge love for children, being a teacher myself in the past and having three kids of my own. And just reading your book and relating to the child in you and then the woman you are today and what you've endured and how powerful you are. And it's just another great example of how strong as females we are, and sharing your story, you're going to help someone else out there or many others that have perhaps endured not exactly the same, but something similar as what you've been through. So thank you for being so real and doing
Well,
that.
we are a community, aren't we?
Exactly. That's the whole goal of this podcast too. So if you can, let's dive into your journey and take us back to your childhood. Tell us a little bit about what were those early years like, and did it help shape you or not shape you? Just let's start from there.
Absolutely. I would say that would be preposterous for anyone to think anything differently than from the moment that you're born, that you are not beginning to be shaped by others in your life. And for children, especially, as my book is Choose You First, children don't have a voice and the ability to cognitively come up with the fact of choose me first because that abnormality, that abuse is normal for a child. And so I'm so grateful that I had nuggets of love from others that in some cases had no idea, just the impact of that small gesture maybe in their part, be it a hug or just that expression that I, as a child, just soaked up like a sponge. And fortunately and unfortunately, I mean, I did endure. We did not talk about abuse. We didn't talk about mental illness. I was born in 1966 with very traditional roles where the wife didn't typically work. They stayed home and raised the family, and the father did go out there to earn a living. And so there were very defined roles. And my parents, quite frankly, got married because she got pregnant, and my dad did an honorable thing by choosing me. I mean, I think, that's why I have such an incredible relationship with him even today. He's the He'd be 85 this year, and I had him move in with me about 3 years ago. And it's such an honor to share my home with him and to live in peace because he's the closest one, because he had his own torment and didn't realize really how traumatic it was in our home because he was so driven in his own career of being a good provider. But he had his own abuse from another perspective. But as a child, it was, you just never know what to expect. And you learn to just, that's what today's going to be. This is what this moment's going to be. And you try to, try to not, I was a very quiet child because I didn't want to make anybody upset.
Ah,
And that, and then, you gain those through, and you talk about neglect. Quite frankly, my mother was not officially diagnosed, but we have had diagnosis in our family with other members that were considered bipolar as well as schizophrenia. I would say that really would be very characteristic of her as a mother. I don't want to say she didn't really want children, but she did neglect us as children. And so, but that light still shined. I mean, I really had an incredible grandmother that lived outside of my city, but every moment I had with her she was so nurturing and such a mother. At school, when you go to school and you have black and blue marks at the time, they never spoke about it. I never spoke about it. as my father was climbing up the ladders of success, we learned at a very early age to put on the mask and be one of those children are to be seen but not heard. So put on the face and the mask and then move on and spent a lot of time in my own imaginary world. My sisters and I do not have a relationship because we were basically siphoned off as children to not have that unity of family. So, and they, have their own experiences, but I was the littlest of them all. I was always, even though I was the oldest, I definitely was the smallest. And I also, as the oldest, wanted to be the protector and the provider. And I learned from a physical perspective to endure. And the mental was just my normal. So I didn't know anything different. And I always felt as if it was my responsibility to keep as much at peace. And if that meant that I needed to endure a physical experience and an emotional dynamic of being talked to in a very ugly, scary way, I just shielded it. And I've always been a very spiritual person. And I had a very significant experience that molded my life. And I maintained that spirituality my whole life. It is my strength. It is my anchor with the other ones that have certainly come in to my life to show me what love is. And I learned really to gain my voice, my true voice, after my husband passed away in 2019. And I was completely devastated because he was the only person that I had unmasked, unshielded, and let him know the truth about all of me. And in that vulnerability, I was able to experience true love. And as I was fighting for my life through COVID, pandemic in December 2020, I spent 3 weeks in the ICU and I said, whatever you do, do not intubate me. And I fought through it because I know that I have a purpose here on this earth. And that purpose is to shine the light of hope with others that you can make a choice. And choosing you first is not selfish, it is selfless. A selfish act has nothing to do with making boundaries, taking care of your mental, your spiritual, your physical, your emotional health, your being. It is an act of someone with malice intent, and selfishness has gotten a bad rap because it is truly not a bad thing to put yourself first for the healing needed. And I will sing it from the top of the mountains till the day that I go home and take my last breath on this earth.
Michelle, that's beautifully said. I mean, I can feel your passion, your radiant, like through me, the way you're talking about how, like, you know what your purpose is, why you're here, and you're so determined to share that with everyone else so that they realize that you need to love yourself, you need to take care of yourself, and it's okay for you to do that because we have been trained as females from a very young age or for past generations that that's not the way to do it. We're not supposed to do that. And we are all working together to change that because that's the only way. If we take care of ourselves, then we're able to give more love and share our spirit with everyone else, right? You can't
Yes.
you can't pour from an empty cup. So it's the key.
Well, and we try. And
Yeah.
but what we're missing out on is first in those years earlier, not talking about it because talking about it was accepting it. And it is a cure. It is not about accepting someone's abuse or accepting that as your life and how it's supposed to be. It is a talking about it, communicating about it, being authentic, being real, being honest. That is strength. That is courage. It creates change. It will create change in your life. It will change monumentally the lives of others around you. It will bring others into your life that lift you up, as opposed to the difficulties is when you have to shed some of that armor and you have to lose some of those that may have been bringing you down. But if you really think about it from the perspective of life as whole, when we are born, we're attached to our mother by an umbilical cord. It is cut. You may have a parent, two parents, family, sisters, friends, brothers, uncles, aunts. And guess what? That is what life is about, is the change and rotation as you evolve and grow with the people that you surround yourself with. And truly, you're not with your mother 24/7 like you were when you were in the womb. You're not, as you get older, you're with friends, and it'd be great. I have childhood friends, but I can't say that since the moment I was born. And I can't say that if the relationships certainly changed from the time I was younger to what it is as an adult. Changing is evolution. It is power. It is love. And so the greatest love is to have the love for yourself, because that enables you to know the love that you can give to others.
Yes, that is the key. Now, knowing everything you experience, how do you see the impact of your childhood? Both the pain and the resilience on who we become. I mean, we've talked about that before earlier too, how powerful our childhood is, right? Because a lot of us we think we can just bury it and not talk about it, and somehow it comes back again, right? It comes back. All of a sudden you hear stories of someone who's like in their 50s or 60s, something that happened to them when they were 7 years old. It's still there for them. So that's why, again, conversation, being vulnerable, being real. So how were you able to overcome all this
Well, it is a daily journey.
daily journey?
It is a daily journey. And that's one of the things that in my messaging to others, I will never, I will never say, if you do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, your
You're
life
done.
is going to be perfect.
Yes, yeah,
I think that is so preposterous. Life is a journey. It is a daily step. It can be just a breath to breath moment, depending upon the situation. And you have to make a lifestyle change from within, with making what I believe is small changes throughout your life of what you're aspiring to do. And guess what? When it doesn't work out, you get to take a step back, and then you get to move in a different pivoted way. You get that choice, you get that opportunity, but it starts with you taking action to it. And I trigger now. I have to tell you, I just came back from where I was born in St. Petersburg, Florida, and and there were triggers.
of
And
course.
recognizing that there are triggers and then utilizing your coping skills and
Yes.
saying, okay, this is a trigger. That doesn't mean that's a bad thing, as
Yeah.
long as you recognize it and that you embrace it and you make a change and shift to not let it be a deterrent from moving forward.
Yeah.
So that's something I think is very
I
important.
think that's key. I think you hit on their exact right word, is that awareness. As long as you're aware of, okay, maybe to this morning I woke up and something triggered me, and now I'm not in the right state that I should be, but having that compassion and dealing with it with grace and saying, okay, this is how I'm feeling. What can I do to help myself cope with this? Instead of just not pretending that it's not happening and going out about and maybe yelling and screaming at other people and just being in a bad mood all day and displaying your anger, in a different format. But just that self-awareness is the key to realize what you're going through. Now, Michelle, were there anytime, any conversations with your mom about, did she ever explain maybe if she, besides the mental health, how was her childhood? Because sometimes it's a cycle, or were there any conversations that she opened up and with, expressing regret? Were you able to ever have those, or you guys never had those type of conversations?
Great question. Before I go there, I do want to go back because I think it's very important. You used two very important things, and it was about compassion and kindness. Have that for yourself. Have that. No, like people as women, I think we can be compassionate for others, but we don't give that grace
No.
to ourselves and that compassion. I think those are very important things to self-recognize. You, as an individual, are equally, if not more, entitled to give yourself that and give yourself permission. Because if you don't, you will not heal. You will not allow yourself to heal because you've given it all away. So that is very, very important. So I wanted to recognize that you're just so on it, Pearl. I love it.
Thank you.
Uh, as it relates to a conversation with my mother self-medicated through alcoholism. So it was something I did not realize as a child that she had this drinking issue because it just wasn't something I was aware of. And her father, she lost her mother when she was 14 years old, and she was from New York, and then moved to St. Petersburg with my her father, my grandfather. And it is my understanding, and I do recall him drinking on a very regular basis. Like he'd wake up drinking, and I can remember him having beer and brown liquor and a cigarette, in the first thing in the morning. And it is my understanding that he was abusive as well to her, only in a brief moment of conversation through other people, not necessarily from my mother. My mother lived in a constant state of denial. So having any type of conversation about why is really, I mean, I asked. There were very tormented times in my loneliness in my room crying to myself because didn't want to cry because I wanted to be strong. So I'd like and crying, and go, why? Why me? Why me? Why me? Why? What did I do wrong? And even as an adult, my mother had one of her episodes and left the house randomly and left for 2 or 3 weeks. And it was the only time, and I was 15 years old, and it was the only time we'd actually had peace in our house. And my dad still working. We used to have to actually pick out clothes to wear to school from the dirty laundry because it would just load up in the laundry room. And he got all our clothes washed, and it was just, there was not the yelling and the chaos and mayhem. And one day we'd come home from school and she was in the kitchen cooking. And we didn't have cell phones back then. We just had a landline. So I went to another room and very quietly called my dad at work. And I said, so that I wasn't heard, like, Mom's here and she's cooking. And he goes, Don't worry, I'll be home. It'll be okay. And I remember he came home and he worked about a half an hour away, but he came home pretty fast. And he took he took her away and they had a conversation, and he came home that evening and sat myself and my two sisters down on the couch and put his arms around us, and he told us that he was going to be leaving and that they would be getting a divorce. And it was the first time I'd ever seen my dad cry. And I knew at that moment that I couldn't stay there. And I was like, Dad, and I was old enough legally, and he was an attorney, so he knew about how the laws were of granting the children to the mother typically in those days. But I was old enough that I had more of an opportunity to have a voice, possibly legally. And I said, if you don't take me with you, then I'm leaving. And I would have been a runaway. Could not stay after have experienced like not that chaos. I couldn't go back to it. I just couldn't do it. And he was loving and kind, and he said, "Okay, well then be leaving tomorrow." And we packed up the car. The girls, my two younger sisters, had gone with my mother. My mother wasn't there when he told us, and um, packed up the car. And I sat next to him in the passenger seat with whatever we had. And I'll never forget him saying, he said, "Don't look, hon, don't look back, baby. Don't look back." And because and I didn't. And, here I am, you know, and I still am very emotional about that moment in my life because it saved my life. Um, and I'm very grateful that when I was conceived, that he chose me. And he chose to stay with my mother and do the best he could. And then when they weren't together, that he gave me the opportunity for life again. And so it's such an honor for me as he's aged that we've always had a really close, honest relationship with each other, to be able to care for him in his elderly years, and not his vibrant self of saving. But never, you say never look back, but there's always an emotional look back. But it was so life-changing for me, and I'm so grateful. And even then, it took me until the passing of people to really gain my own voice and be able to, in my vulnerability, let people know it's okay. It's okay. It creates strength. It creates courage. It creates love. And being authentic is so easy. And people are by nature kind and loving, and giving them the opportunity to grow with you and grow through your experience is such a gift. And I'm honored to have the opportunity in life now to speak my truth and know that I'm not the only one speaking. We are a community of it in all different facets. And I am definitely just so grateful in so many ways. It fills every being of my body and soul.
Wow, Michelle, I remember reading that section in the book and I had a visual in my head of like what was going on, and I can feel your emotions. I am so sorry for everything you've been through, but I'm so proud of who you've become. It's so deep and heavy. Do you think how would you say you were able to break the patterns from, obviously, when we get abused and then we don't feel like we're worthy, and we don't have that respect for ourselves, and then that continues, like I said earlier, ripples into your life with your boyfriends or husbands and you allow the abuse to continue and continue. So, how were you able to shift yourself out of victimhood and finally say, like, enough is enough? I'm no longer a victim.
Uh, I must say, even when you're born in an abnormal abusive situation, that is your normal. So when you're exposed to normal, I would literally like my safe haven has always been my kitchen. And so I would literally, in other families, I'd be in the kitchen cooking or doing something and just observing because I didn't know how to integrate. And not only did I fall into the patterns of the typical abused child, I gravitated to abusive people. And my biggest abuser in retrospect was myself.
That's what I was going to say.
It was myself. And, you talk about, I'm very open about suffering eating disorders in my 20s. I still experience daily body dysmorphia, but I'm a healthy person. And as we say, I mean, I have my blood work done. I love to exercise. I love to eat healthy. But I still, it's like being aware of a trigger. It's like, okay, this is the racket I'm telling myself in the head. I need to change that narrative. And so it's okay. It's all of that's okay. And having my voice really began when my abuser from the very, very beginning, being my mother, passed away. And
Hmm.
she literally bled out because of alcoholism. And I went down only to support my siblings. I felt such joy because she was finally freed from her earthly demons. And that to me was joyful. She lived her whole life like that.
Yeah.
And I mean that in itself was such an awakening to me. It's like, okay, and I was very successful professionally. And so I was great with the mask. I mean, nobody would ever have thought like but when you pull a 72-hour straight because you're so obsessed with being successful, that's not very good balance, And
Balance was off.
you're right. Your balance is a little off there. So it wasn't until she passed that I gave myself permission because I did have a conversation with her because after we left, I did not have conversations. I had them intermittently, and I tried as her daughter, like I'd clear out the house of the booze, I'd give her money. And even in her later years, I knew I couldn't give her money because she'd just blow it on alcohol. So I would pay her electricity bill to the electricity company for the year and just not say anything. So I remember in my probably mid late 20s, having taking her to lunch and letting her know that I forgave her and I was good. It was all good. I forgave her and I want her to have, you know, the best life she can have. And her immediate reaction was, "Are you dying? Or do you have cancer?" And I'm like, "No, Mom, I do not. I just want you to know I'm letting this go." And I did in my naive 20-year-old self. But the reality was you never really let it go. But when you do hold on to that little girl and you are finally release that true pain that didn't happen until over the last really few years, that I truly like, I don't even, it doesn't like, it has zero emotional effect on me. The reason why I get so emotional about the dynamic with my father is because that emotion comes from a place of love.
Yeah.
It's not about pain. It's not about victimhood. It is from love. And those are tears of happiness and joy and vulnerability, and gratefulness. So, but as it relates to the abuse, I recognize it as exactly what it was. And it has a neutral position for me in my head, in myself, in my full body. I accept the unfortunate, dynamics of what she had to have lived with. And I'm not that person. And so when she passed, it gave me the strength to actually be vulnerable with someone that I had this immediate cosmic connection with. And that was my late husband. And we ended up connecting. He thought I'd moved back to Florida because he hadn't seen me in so many years. And we don't live in a big
It
area.
was meant to be, right? Because it's
It
like
was,
you guys
it,
kept bumping into each other.
yeah, but we had years and we bumped back into each other. And we tried to, we had a conversation. It was just like we picked up where we had left off, and great friendship, great respect. And I realized, even though we were in similar industries, that I could not have a professional relationship with him. And we had a very candid conversation and said, do you want to know me, the real me? Not this person, not this person, not, I was, again, very siloed. Businesswoman, owned her own business, mother, ex-wife at that time. But
All of the above.
yeah, all of the above. Uh, and he said, I'm in. And I never stopped. I was completely raw. And then when his unexpected death occurred, it took my living breath away. And Pearl, I really didn't know I couldn't breathe. I was supposed to go first. I was the one 215 pounds with breast cancer. I was the one that was, had high blood pressure that they were getting ready to put me on shots on. I was the one with the cholesterol. I was the one with the arrhythmia. I was the one that's supposed to go. I mean, that was the plan. And I was okay with that. How about that? I was okay with that. That's talking about not feeding yourself. But and then he just, it was like that. And it took me years, actually. I spent probably a full year completely isolating myself from everyone. And I gutted our house and I made it my home. And after COVID and surviving that, I had a unique experience that, because during that time frame, you couldn't see anyone. So, if they came in, they were in mask and your family's not around. So for
Right,
3 weeks, I mean, you're just by yourself, and call it the medication, call it whatever. I had this image that came to me in my room, and I wasn't afraid of it, but of an unrecognizable man. I don't know. It was not Jesus. It was not my late husband. And he was on this, it was almost like a surreal light. And he was like in this alcove with a library of books on each side and just a center wall. And he would throw like, it was like a baseball, it wasn't a tennis ball, that against the wall. And then it would come right back to his hand. And he'd go, it was like a clock, almost like those metro tick, 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 tick. And he'd go, it's just time. It's just time. And it was like, wow. I'm like near death. I think my pulse ox went down to like 43 at one point. My SpO2, my breathing was shallow, and I was making a very deep turn. And I was like, when I got out, I was like, I will not live my life like this. And I have a calling. That calling came to me at 10 years old when I was in those moments in my room crying saying, why me? And this was a spiritual experience when there was a light, and I will always remember it, by my bed in the corner, that was just so glowing and so warm and inviting. And then I had the opportunity to have a visual of Jesus Christ at the end of my bed. And he was also glowing. I'm 10 years old.
Yeah.
And to be touched at the foot of my bed and sobbing as a child, not understanding why. And all I heard was that she knows not what she does, my child. You are loved. And then his image went away. And then over a period of time, what I would consider the Holy Spirit faded over time. And had no fear, just complete peace. So I look back at each moment like bookends.
Hmm.
And through all the experiences in between, I knew after the pandemic, this is my calling. Shine the light of hope. Talk about it.
Yeah.
Let let's let's shout it. Let's put it out there. Nothing's wrong. And I say all the time, we are perfect in all of our imperfections. That is exactly none of it. We are all filled with imperfection. I'm imperfect every day. And I take that recognizing that it actually weaves itself into exactly how we are to be created. And that makes perfection.
Yes. Oh, I got goosebumps with your story. I mean, I think it was a message for you, both when you were 10 and later on when you were older, to realize that it's not your time yet. You need to keep going. You're here to send a message. You have a purpose. Now, tell us about your silent warrior technique and how can my listeners do it?
Oh, I'm telling you, you talk about earlier, you said about anxiety and stress and all that. Check, check, check. I've had post-traumatic stress. I've had panic attacks through my life. They're not good. So let's just recognize it for what it is. I mean, they happen. Those are going to have, not necessarily panic attacks. It's really important once again to recognize what those triggers are, what you're experiencing physically. And so before you get to that point, first of all, through all the noise and chaos, it's important just to hit the pause button. Hit the pause button and be quiet and silent in it. And then I simply take a deep breath, which we breathe every day. It's a natural thing, every moment, every day. And I take a breath in and I consider that in myself. And sometimes I'll say it out loud as I say, take a deep breath in. I go, breathe in life, because that is what breath is. Breathe in life. And I hold it in a pause, and then I just simply blow out all that doesn't serve you. And so I do this in a very smooth cadence for me until the level of anxiety or noise starts, or the voices in your head telling you these things. Just stop. Did it when my children were little. I had them 20 months apart, and any new mother knows. And I'll tell you, it's been my joy and one of my greatest accomplishments in life to say that my children have had a thriving, loving, never abusive, even though divorced, family family life with their mother. And I love being a mother. I wanted to be a mother, and it's one of my greatest joys. And so when the kids you're trying to eat, and when you got those babies, I don't
Forget
know.
about it.
Yeah, I was like, forget about it. I'm like, do not take me out. Do not waste money. This is not working for me. Uh, but just it's okay. Even in their crying, you'll see, like, if you just take a breath. Sometimes I close my eyes. A lot of times I can be in a meeting and it just happens as a natural type of rhythm for me of training your body physically because breath, the oxygen that you receive, pausing and exhaling, all that doesn't serve you, the carbon dioxide that removes from your body, the brain starts triggering, the dopamine start happening.
Really
So
strong.
it is a really strong thing in a very small moment. I will tell you, sometimes it will calm down in 10 seconds, and sometimes I may have to take a half an hour, just
Right? It
pause.
depends what the situation is. I love that. I think that's a great technique. I mean, I think you can use it in any situation. If you're interacting with somebody, if you're at a red light and and you're really running late to something and you're just getting anxiety and you calm yourself down, it's so easy. You can do it anytime. And
I
I
love
also
it.
have to tell you that I'm really proud of you for stopping that cycle of abuse because a lot of times you hear the stories of, well, I was abused or this happened, and then they continue it. I couldn't stop. So I was drinking because I needed to heal my pain. And then I did the same thing to my kids. So you broke that cycle. So
Yeah.
that's amazing. And your kids are so proud of you. And I know you went a different direction to give them all that love and affection that you wanted so much as a child. You gave that to your children. So I mean, I could talk to you forever, but I have to be respectful of our time. So I had all these other questions, but
Well,
just
let's get back together.
yes, we
I
should. We need to do a part
seriously,
two.
girl, seriously, I just love you to death. I know
Oh, thank you.
you get it, and I know your listeners are getting it from you, and I want to be part of that community.
For sure, for sure. I have, when you see this on video, I have her book, Choose You First. And if you want her full story, it's really vulnerable and raw, and it's really powerful. It's powerful message to. I mean, she has gone through so much. We didn't even get into the brain injury and so much, and she's still here, and she's still working on her message and her purpose, and that's so powerful. And it just shows the power of empowerment, right? Just passing it through to the rest of us. This episode has explored how Michelle's transformative journey from trauma to healing. I mean, today she has shared her revolutionary, the silent warrior technique, which is so easy, but we can all do it. And she has opened up about the deep wounds of her past and how she found the strength to move beyond survival into her life of fulfillment. Her story is a testament to resilience and the belief that transformation is always possible, no matter the hardship. We also explore the roots of self abandonment, the lasting impact of childhood insecurities, and the critical role of self worth in personal healing. Michelle, you have inspired all of us and have equipped my listeners with tools to break free from limiting patterns, reclaiming their confidence, and standing fully in their truth. Is there anything else you would like to share with us today?
I want everyone listening to absolutely know that they are loved and they are supported and it's there. So never, ever give up on yourself. Just reach out because you've got a community that's willing to support however we can.
Thank you. All the links will be in my show notes. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in today to Female Fluence. Together, we can influence and motivate other mind-like females. Your job is to feel alive, be in control, and always be true to your own self. Please don't forget to subscribe so you can continue feeling inspired. All the links and notes from this episode will be posted on my website, femalefluence.com. Don't forget to also follow me at Female Fluence on both Instagram and Facebook. Lastly, if you are in need of a woman empowerment life coach to help you identify the barriers that keep you from living the life you seek, please send an email to info@femalefluence.org. Remember, my friends, don't just exist, but live your life to the fullest. I'm your host, Pearl Mashur. Until we talk next time.